In this episode of the Tech John, Brother Tech gives his first impressions of the iPhone 16. The government seems to be taking online child safety more seriously, and we discuss digital note taking and if it makes you more productive. We got all this and more for you in episode 147 of the Tech John. From Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka Mr. College Tour. Was all day long. Went to 2 college campuses for my daughter. She's a junior in high school, so we are starting the college tour process. So we've got a couple of colleges local to Atlanta specifically. So we're going to start local and then spread out from there. So a
You
little
ain't just
tired.
gonna be a TSU family?
So that would be nice. But at the same time, based on, ultimately the decision's up to her. And we want to make sure to expose her to all the different options and choices that she has. Now, from there, definitely we're going to make sure we make that trip to Tennessee and talk it up and make sure she has the ideal experience. But ultimately, the decision's up to her, and we're cool with it. It'd be dope if she is what do they call it? If she is legacy, that's what
Legacy.
they call it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it'd be nice, but I can definitely see the appeal of her being closer to home, and Atlanta's got some good colleges to offer. So we're not gonna pass up a good opportunity just to say she is legacy. Especially
Listen, if Denise Huxtable had to go to Hillman, then she got to go to,
But you
she
know
got
what?
to go to
The out of
TSU.
state fees hit different, though.
Yeah, they do.
But
So,
at the same time, I don't want that to be a decision as to why she doesn't choose out of state, right?
mhm.
Because we are we talk about money amongst our family, our immediate family, meaning my 2 daughters and my son. So they know money, and they specifically know, they don't necessarily know every dollar we have, but we have conversations, just in conversations me and my wife have, we're sitting with the kids talking or whatever the case may be. We talk about money, we talk about finances, we talk about the cost of things, but I don't want her to be like, "Oh, I ain't even gonna consider this because I know what mom and dad gonna say because I looked at the price and I don't know if they're gonna go for that. So I ain't even gonna consider that." I don't want that. But at the same time, I definitely don't want her we trying to, I gotta give blood just to send her to Harvard or something like that. you know.
So
So
I'm just going to talk about my youngest. She wasn't thinking about that at all. She was like, "Yeah, I want to go to Benedictine College, Dad. It doesn't matter to me that it's $174,000 to go per year, not for the for per year. I think that's the most expensive school in the world to go to. I'm being somewhat facetious, but yeah, she wasn't thinking about that at all. It's like, what does that mean out of state fees? It just means you got to pay more. Okay, cool. This is where I want to go. That's literally what my daughter, how she thought about it. But she's
mhm.
happy where she is. So this is an exciting time, man. I'm just glad you're one of those parents that's actually doing it now as she is a junior. A lot of folks wait till their kids get into their senior year to try to figure out where they want to go. Not that you have to have your decision made, but at least you get, you're not rushed. You can go and you can look here, you can look there, you can make, a trip there. Uh,
Well,
and
I don't want her to be
trust the
stressed
decision
out
making.
because if she's adopted any of my wife's genes, getting stressed out is easy.
Mm.
So we want to make sure we start early. So, this whole process, it doesn't seem rushed. It makes it not as stressful as possible, because the whole college thing, even from our high school, and trying not to belabor the point, but the high school she goes to, they're all like college, 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 college. What you do now, you'll have all these effects in college, which can kind of take away from them just being kids and just trying to discover, because you go to college to discover who you are, not necessarily have everything laid out for you ahead of
Right.
time. You're just going through the motions, right? Because
Mhm.
I thought I had it when I went to college. By the time I got out, it had something totally different, and I'm in something totally different than I went through in college. So it's like I'm not going to then turn around and be like, all right, you got to know exactly what you want to
Mhm.
be in junior, in high school, and the only track you got is this because you chose this. You know what I'm saying? Try not to be that. But at the same time, we want to make sure to get the process early, get it started early, so you know, now you're in the big league. So let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into some tech stories because Terrance, you posted a picture. I think it was Friday or Saturday of a nice little Apple bag. And I
Hmm.
was thinking, if you was hanging out in the Apple store, was that bag big enough for all the purchases you made? I was thinking 4, 5 iPhones for you and the family, a couple, sets of AirPods, maybe a new iPad, a couple
I knew
watches.
one or two, right?
That bag was little. So what did you get that was in that Apple bag? Because you never actually said, but I'm assuming that it was an iPhone 16.
Yeah, no, I got the iPhone 16 Pro Max and got the Apple Watch Ultra 2. The last week I was back.
Nice.
Yeah,
You
last.
spent. You dropped a band.
Well, again, like I said, I keep my old devices up to par, and
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to buying new ones, I trade in or sell the old ones. So at the end of the day, it's a nominal price increase, but it ain't, you know,
It's
thousands of
not zero.
dollars. Right. No, definitely not zero, but yeah, so I did chose the uh Apple Watch Ultra 2 in that titanium black because when I went into the store to actually pick up the watch that I ordered, which was the Apple Watch Series 10, they say it looks 10% thinner and they say the screen is this much bigger. But I put them two watches on, the Apple Watch Series 9 that I had and the Apple Watch Series 10. I could not tell them joints apart at all. So I was like, let me do something a little bit different. So now I put that Apple Watch Ultra 2 on. I was like, yeah. I can definitely tell this looks different. It's got the black color and it looks like a different device, even
Right.
though it's just like the rugged version. So I was looking for something a little new, and so I chose that. Canceled my Apple Watch Series 10 order, and I'm happy so far.
So you're telling me I should get the Ultra instead of 10? Well, I mean, I would have to think though that the 10 is going to look different than the SE.
The 10 is going to look much different than the SE. You're
Yeah.
gonna look at your wrist and be like, oh yeah, this is definitely nicer.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna have a stark difference between this and the Apple Watch Ultra, especially if you have a smaller wrist.
Yeah.
I wasn't I wasn't clocking your wrists the last time we were in
I do
person.
have tiny wrists. I have big
Yeah,
hands, but
right.
tiny wrists. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the reason why I didn't get the Apple Watch Ultra the first time was because it looked kind of bulky, but I never put it on. But this time I
Mm-hmm.
went into the Apple store, put it on. I was like, oh, this is nice. So I just like, all right, well, let me just do this. So
All
Okay.
right.
Now, what about that iPhone? You picked that up. That's probably what most people want to hear about. How are you liking the new iPhone 16 Pro Max?
it's dope. Definitely the battery life for the watch and the iPhone 16. Now I can't speak to the 16 or the 16 Plus, but the 16 Pro Max, the battery life is much better. With my older watch, I mean my older phone, I could get through the day, but towards the end of the day, I'd have to get creative, turning on low power mode, turning off Bluetooth, doing my own little tricks to conserve or to squeeze out more battery life. But with the Apple Watch 16, I mean, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I got it on Friday and I had it all day Friday, pretty much all day Saturday, and I didn't have to put it back on the charger until like late Saturday night. And then 20, 30 minutes, it's almost back to up to 100%. So I definitely, the battery life on the Apple Watch and the iPhone 16, much better. Some of the other things that I like on the phone itself, the camera control button, it's going to take a little to get used to because it's in a weird position. Because I have not all but most of the video and photo I'm shooting now is portrait. When the
Mm.
phone is sitting up top, right? With this camera control button, it forces you to go landscape so you can get your finger around to
Mm.
actually use that button. You can use it in portrait, but then it's where it's real a real weird experience. And then the zoom in and out, you got to kind of press down a little bit to reveal the zoom controls, and then you
Hmm.
slide your finger back and forth. For those who are listening, pretend I'm used to doing back and forth with my finger, but for those in video, you actually have to turn your phone landscape, and then the button will be on the top on the right hand side, and you kind of it's haptic feedback is pressure. So if you click it or double click it, it'll automatically open the camera. If you press and hold, it'll switch to video and then automatically start recording. You take your finger off, it stops recording. So it's very, very convenient if you want to quickly take a picture or quickly take a video. Now, if you're holding it, you getting in for like a longer length video, then you got to kind of use your sensitivity to actually kind of press and hold just a little bit of pressure. It'll reveal the zooms, and then you slide your finger back and forth. So it was a new experience. I have to get used to it. Then once you get used to it, it'll probably be the best thing since sliced bread. But I've only had the phone for what, a weekend, and I've done a couple videos, and it does take getting some used to because I'm used to holding the phone and then taking my finger and doing this on the screen to zoom in and out. Well, now I don't have to do that. I can hold it like this, just take my finger and do the slide this way. So it more resembles a traditional camera because one of the complaints on the iPhone 16 over the weekend I've seen on the news is, oh, it's only for right-handed people
I was just
in
about to say,
landscape mode.
took the words out of my mouth. As soon as you said it's on the upper right, I was like, oh, so it's gonna be some stuff for some right-handed people.
Right, right.
So I'm just basically not even gonna be able to make the. I mean, obviously I can use my right hand, but why Apple?
Well,
Like,
my argument to that was all cameras are right-handed trigger
I know,
with the zoom in and out on
which
this side.
sucks.
So it's like, well, I mean, I don't know if that much. What did you expect Apple to do with that? I don't know.
I don't know, but still,
Well, here's a question: can you
it'd have
hold the
been
camera
nice.
upside down and actually use the button with your thumb? Is that an option, or do you have to hold it where the
I
button
guess you
is?
could. I guess you could. I never even thought to try that, but I'm assuming you could. I'd have to try that out. Let's do that right now. So if I hold this way, yep, and then I can, yep. So you can actually do it. I actually can. You can flip it around and use your thumb on your left hand side. So if you are a left-handed person, instead of turning it around and using your finger, turn it back around and use your thumb on the left hand side. So again, it's going to be awkward because I can't ever remember trying to do anything with my thumb on my left hand side. But I'm right-handed, so maybe for a left-handed person, flipping it around and using your thumb as the zoom or all the other controls. If you kind of press down, it'll show like a line at the bottom, and you swipe up on that. It'll give you the ability to use that camera button to switch from the zoom to the focus to the lighting controls to aperture, a whole bunch of different things. So once you select one of those, then that slide back and forth will control those different functions. So it's a dope concept. I just have to get used to it because, like I said, I'm so
Mhm.
used to filming in portrait, and then I'm so used to using my finger and my thumb on the screen to zoom in and out. So it was a little rough that first night. I went to my daughter; she's in the color guard, and I took it out to kind of film her doing it, and I can see it's smooth to zoom in and out, but I can see me going back and forth because I forget which way is zoom in and zoom out. So sometimes I go to zoom in, but actually zoom back out. Versus I know on my fingers, if I do this
Mhm.
and zoom out, it's zooming out. If I take my fingers and pinch closer, that's zoom in. So I can tell, just shooting that way, it's like, all right, I'm going back and forth, back and forth. Hopefully nobody's watching this has got vertigo or not, something like
Yeah.
that. But it's a learning curve. But other than that, the phone is dope. Doesn't look that much different. I've got the same color from last year to this year, and it looks about the same. The camera,
I'm actually thinking I'm gonna get the black
yeah,
titanium when I do get mine.
yeah.
Because I was like, I like the one I have is no, this was the that lavender that didn't really look like in lavender, and
Hmm.
then that desert whatever. I thought
Hmm.
it was gonna be more bronze, and it's really like a beige and a
Right.
gold. Like I was like the black. I don't know that I've ever had a black iPhone. So I think I'm gonna get that black.
No, it definitely looks nice.
Hmm.
Again, going from the 15 Pro Max to the 16 Pro Max, as far as visibly, is about the same. The only benefit to this over the 15 would be the camera control, which again I got to get used to, and the battery life. The biggest difference is the battery life. I can fully take it off the charger in the morning and don't have to worry about charging it up until at least a day later. So this is the
That's
first
good.
time, yeah, this is the first time in recent memory that I can confirm that Apple's products indeed have all day battery life, because that was Apple's thing, used to say, oh, all day battery life, but then it'd be like, nah, all day work day
Right.
battery life,
8
for
hours.
8 hour work all day. After that, you're on your own, Jack. Well, this one you can go 24 hours and still have some battery left.
Now, is that
That's
because of a bigger battery, or is it better battery management, or probably or possibly a combination of the two?
Well, they say the battery is bigger, but Apple didn't say as a result of the battery being however many percent bigger, you're going to get better battery life. They didn't have any sort of graphics. They said the graphics on how fast it
They
is.
were being hella cryptic about that too
Yeah,
during the event, which I thought was interesting.
yep. But I can definitely tell the battery life is better going from a 15 Pro Max to a 16 Pro Max. So that's going to be the biggest thing. And then the second biggest thing being the new button on the side of it.
And see, I have the 14, so this will be a pretty decent
Hmm.
sort of jump for me. I only get every other phone.
And
So
that's how it should be, to be
Mhm.
honest. It
mhm.
should be, well, at the very least, it should be every other year. I just do every year because this is my thing,
'Cause you can. Yeah.
and it's like everybody has their thing, right? Some people
Mhm.
travel, some people buy clothes, some people buy cars,
You buy Apple
I
products.
buy tech gadgets. So
So,
I'm okay with
so
spending
here's
there.
my question. Because for those who might have been paying attention to the news, the iPhone 16 is not selling that great. Now, Apple doesn't necessarily give you numbers specifically to the Pro models versus the standard models. It's just the iPhone 16 is not selling that well, and they think a drag is the Pro. So my question to you is that, is there enough difference between what you have now with this new button and camera? Because you said nothing about AI, because the AI stuff is not available yet. So is the
Well,
drag because AI is just not there and folks are like, well, I can just upgrade my old phone and pretty much have everything except for the camera button? Or are there things that make you say, oh no, if you're on an older iPhone, this is the one you need to go and update to now, as compared to waiting until the new features come out with Apple
well,
Intelligence?
well, um, you could make a case that the iPhone 16 isn't selling as well as everybody wanted to. It's not the fact that it's not selling well. It's not selling well according to expectations. You
Mm-hmm.
could make an argument that that is because iOS 18 isn't like the it's not come fully packaged, right? What Rob is mentioning too, it doesn't have Apple Intelligence as advertised out of the box. Now the trick to that is the public beta was released on Friday, and I actually downloaded the Apple Intelligence beta and actually have it on my phone now. So the Apple Intel, you can, technically speaking, you can get the Apple Intelligence public beta. It still doesn't have all the features, but it has some of the features that you can expect, like the dopest thing, which is so small but so dope, is the email summary. If you use the default mail app and you have intelligence running, it'll summarize your emails in the preview. So I don't even have to open up the email. I can look at the notifications, or I can open up the mail app and just look at the in all of my inboxes, and it'll say, instead of you can actually look in the email all this crap, but then the summary it'll be like, your package is delivered. I don't have to. I'm like, bet.
Right.
I don't have to open up nothing. I don't have to click no tracking. I don't have to do any of that. So that's a dope feature. And then of course, the little animation that turns on Siri. Before pressing hold Siri, the little Siri button at the bottom, or the Siri icon at the bottom. Well, this you press the Siri or call or use your voice to call Siri. Whole screen kind of does this little rainbow shake thing. So that's definitely it's not a selling feature, but it's just like, oh, that's cool. I definitely can see something different. But until Apple Intelligence is released in full in October. Can't really comment on it. Maybe that's why some people are waiting until Apple Intelligence. I think it's going to be in 18.1 is when
Hmm.
Apple Intelligence drop. Maybe that'll spark up some more sales.
So will people still need to do that update? Like if they buy, like say I buy a phone in December,
Hmm.
will 18.1 already be on it?
Yep. Yep. It'll
Okay.
already be on.
And so then that would make sense then, to your point, Rob, about them not selling great now.
Hmm.
Some people may be waiting and they're like, well, if I just get the phone for Christmas maybe, or something like that,
Right.
everything will be on it. I ain't got to worry about it. I ain't got to do all this update stuff. I want the phone to be fully functioning out of the
Mhm.
box.
Right.
So I mean, I get that. I definitely get that.
Because like I said,
Yeah.
the numbers, they're selling well compared to, when you compare it to every other phone out there, but compared to like the iPhone 15 last year, depending on which numbers you look at, it's 12 to 15% off for that first weekend. So that is, what I think is probably a big part of it is that, wait a minute, why go spend this money now if I can't have all the brand new stuff that's going to make the phone very different from what I have? If I can just wait a month or two, maybe catch a sale. Now, I doubt that that's going to happen. Although the iPhone, because of how, because of depressed sales and because there's I should say hella competition in China, they've already started discounting the iPhone 16 in China. It's just because it's just not selling. So we have to move these devices. So I think that they're running up against the new a new phone from Huawei. That's like a trifold that has like 3 screens.
I don't know if people buying them
I,
things
you know,
that
dude,
much to where they causing that much competition against the iPhone 16. I refuse to believe.
I'm wondering too, because those phones are ridiculously expensive. But they did say that they had like 5 million pre-orders for it. So if you're gonna go spend that money on that, chances are you're not going to go spend that same money on an iPhone. But
Yeah,
anyway,
China's a big market.
yeah,
I don't know if that phone is doing that much damage to
I
where
can't
Apple's like,
imagine that phone is doing that. But that's how the articles read. I think it's more to do with, if it doesn't have the new stuff on it, why don't I just wait until the new stuff comes out, maybe catch a sale if they put these things on sale, as you say, around Christmas time frame or something like that.
yeah.
So anything else that we need to talk about before we move on?
Not yet. Like you mentioned, the Apple Intelligence stuff would be out in October. They don't have a date yet, but that's the whole quote unquote, AI for Apple that's supposed to learn you and provide a better experience based off of your information versus all of the information from the web. So we'll have to see how different does that look from, all the other AI competitors, and how do people use it? I think that's the most important thing. How are people going to use Apple Intelligence will basically steer whether or not it's a popular and whether or not Apple is going to do more stuff, right? Because this is new for iPhone users, where AI, some other Android has had it, Google has had it. How's Apple's going to look? So time will tell.
That commercial, that commercial, there's multiple commercials, but there's a commercial with a young lady in it. I recognize her, but I can't place who it is. But there's a young lady in the commercial, and she sees somebody that she knows, but she can't recall his name. So she ducks around the corner and asks her iPhone, who was that meeting with at such and such a place? And the phone just told her using Apple Intelligence. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. That's kind of sweet to be able to do that.
And that's the part that's not in the public beta. The stuff that they're promoting on the commercial, that public, that personal Apple Intelligence, learning your schedule, learning all the different apps you use to personally be your personal assistant. That ain't on the public beta of Apple Intelligence yet. So again, to your point, Rob, all the stuff that Apple is promoting ain't available yet. So I could see how people's like, I'll just wait and see all the tech blogs talk about that, and then I'll go run out and buy it.
Right.
Okay. So y'all, as we move into this next story, Steph, I've been waiting to talk to you for, I don't know, the better part of a week on this, because I know that these are in your wheelhouse. But I wrote this up as the government appears to be taking child safety online a bit more seriously. So there's a couple of things that happened. The House committee advanced COSA, which is a Kid Online Safety Act, and then what is COPA 2, Child Online
Online Privacy
Protection Act 2.0.
Yeah.
So I know that they advanced both of those. They're not law yet. They still have to get through the House and then go back to the Senate and then get to the president's desk, which he said he would sign if he gets them. But I wanted to get your take. Are these new bills, are they moving the needle at all?
I mean, I wasn't super enthusiastic and optimistic when I was reading these articles, honestly, because they talk about some of the things that they actually killed in COSA to get it done.
Right at the last minute.
Right, and basically removed sort of all, because the COSA basically is centered around duty of care. Like, what is the responsibility of online tech platforms, social media platforms, to protect young people in different ways, and they kind of split those different ways up into various scenarios, and remove the ones that had to do with mental health. So there was a provision in there for depression, suicidal ideation, eating disorders, different things like that. There was a segment of duty of care that was defined with those things that they took out, and then they put in a protection that would, a clause or whatever that would allow parents to actually get kids info from providers, which is a complete violation of privacy. And I know, I'm always on here ranting and raving about, you pay for that phone, you get to do what you want with that phone. But this just seems a little bit, I don't know. I
Around
guess
the
that,
way.
yeah, I guess they're trying to give the sort of power back to the parents to be able to, monitor what their child is doing a little bit better, hold these platforms more accountable, yada, yada, yada. But I don't necessarily feel like this is the way to do it. I don't know. There's something about, I mean, I guess something's better than nothing. And it's going to take a whole bunch of iterations of these types of bills and introduction of new bills and new legislation and things like that. It's going to take a lot. But like I said, I wasn't super optimistic and excited about what I was reading about either of these, COSA or COPPA 2.0.
I was
So just reading,
Go
just
ahead.
want to read this part, just to piggyback off what Stephanie just said. It says, but neither version seems to likely satisfy critics who argue the bill could let regulators pressure companies into banning kids' access to content a particular administration doesn't like. So maybe that sounds like they are playing politics, being biased based on, I don't know, who's ever in office or whatever the case may
Right.
be. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
that is a big point. So think about net neutrality. Net neutrality is a thing depending on who is in office. So it's a thing
Mhm.
again because the Biden administration is in. It was a thing before when the Obama administration was in place. It was not a thing once the Trump administration took place, and my gut would tell me it won't be a thing again if there is another Trump administration. The fear here is that, well, if we're protecting children from political speech, what political speech is uncomfortable depends on who it's coming from, who it's targeted to. So who gets to make those rules? I do understand that. The bigger part, though, is that when you take out mitigating anxiety, depression, eating disorders, substance
Right.
and use disorders, and suicidal behaviors,
That's all of it.
that's the
That's
stuff that you're trying to
right.
protect children from in the
Literally,
first place.
exactly. That's literally
Yeah.
what everybody is complaining, that social media,
Is
how social media harms children, are those 4 or 5 things, and you just took them out of the bill that is supposed to protect them. So I just, once you did that, once I saw that, I said the rest of it is completely, I don't want to say completely disingenuous, but you're not getting anything out of this that you think you're going to get out of this, regardless of what else you do, if you've removed those specific protections.
Oftentimes, when both sides of the aisle are upset about something that they pass, that means, okay, well, there's probably some compromise there and there's some good things in it. This is one of those ones to where I think a lot of people are upset just because you gutted it so much that it doesn't really do what you thought it was going to do.
Right.
And they didn't want to be in a situation where I'm not going to not sign off on making it safer for children, regardless of whether or not these other things are there. So hopefully this won't be the end of it. And at least as far as the state of California is concerned, it's not the end of it for there, because Gavin Newsom, the governor, he actually signed a bill into law recently there. Steph, tell us about what's going on in California.
So it sounds like it's called the Protecting Our Kids from Social Media Addiction Act, introduced by State Senator Nancy Skinner. And this is basically going to try to limit how much time kids are spending online, and the mechanisms that platforms put in place to make their to make social media so addictive. So things like, limiting endless or ending limitless scroll, not allowing notifications overnight, during certain hours of the overnight period unless parents allow it, different things like that to try to limit how much time young people actually spend on their phones. And I mean, okay, but this particular thing, I feel like could be mitigated by the parents. This, like the other, in the other instance, I feel like they were trying to give parents a little too much latitude. But in this one, I feel like, parents could actually, take some I don't want to say initiative necessarily, but the onus could go back on the parents to, if you're just talking about screen time, that's a different conversation. That really is a different conversation to me. I mean, like I said, I'm not mad at it, because this would benefit everybody. Honestly, it's not just kids that spend too much time on their devices. So putting protections in place that force platforms to create ways for people. And I mean, I think they're doing that already. I don't know what else they could do, because, you get those little TikToks every so often say, hey, you've been scrolling for a while. You might want to put your phone down.
Swipe.
And right, exactly. And it's funny. I actually got a notification on Instagram like yesterday or the day before that told me I had reached the end of, my chronologically. It's something about changing this particular California bill is also about going back to chronological feeds, as opposed to letting the algorithm just continue to propagate
Feed you
your feed
stuff.
with
Yeah.
whatever, which I'm not mad at that. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, but I don't know. I feel like,
It's
like I said.
in some instances, TikTok, I get it, which is weird. With TikTok, I can see the appeal to the doom scrolling, right?
Mhm.
Um, with Facebook, with Meta specifically, and with encompasses Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, they don't do a better job. They could do a better job of differentiating between that that algorithm feed and then the feed that I follow. So if I like somebody on Facebook, or I like somebody on Instagram or Meta, or Threads, and I follow them, and I've got like a dozen, 2 dozen, 100 followers, right? I want that to be the default feed. And
Mhm.
then if I want to choose the whatever the algorithm throws at me, do that. There are so many times to where I think I am in that feed, to where I'm following the people, I'm looking at the post or the content from the people that I follow, and then I look up, it's like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Right.
Because Meta then figured out how to flip it to where if I click anything, if I do anything, or if I swipe any
It
certain
goes
way,
back
it
to
goes
the,
back to
yeah.
the
And
algorithm
Yeah.
feed.
And they didn't mention that, but that would be a good thing to add. Like, you
Mhm,
can't, like, for young people, at least for minors, the following feed has to be the default.
mhm.
But then they're still putting suggested
And
posts in that
Right.
feed, and I'm
and that
just
was
like,
the second thing I was gonna get to. On Facebook proper, it's almost like I don't even wanna open Facebook proper
no,
anymore, because
yeah,
it's like, I on Facebook, I just want to see the people
my
that I
people.
follow, and
That's
even
it.
and even in that feed, I mean, like, every 3rd post is something
Hmm.
suggested, or something's like, I don't even
Or an
how did I even
ad,
get
or
this?
just whatever. Yeah,
I
it
don't
it.
follow this person. I don't It's just like they're just forcing this algorithm down your throats, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
for these social media companies, it's like, all right, let's just make it easier for people to choose how they want. If they want that algorithm thing, fine. But don't make that the thing that you revert back to, regardless of what I'm doing on the platform. And that's, I think, the problem.
And it's like most people will probably still spend a bunch of time on social media
Sure.
anyway.
Mhm.
We're not
Whether
doing it.
right, nobody's not going to be on these platforms, so you can give us a little bit of, cut us a little bit of slack with how you're sort of jamming us into these algorithms and kind of manipulating us to stay on these platforms.
Mhm.
That's how they make their money, though.
I know,
So
but
it's
still.
not going to change. Well, here's how I could see it changing. They're going to start charging for that. That's coming.
For
I hate,
yeah.
I hate to be a doomsayer, but they're going to start charging when you don't want to see their curated feed. When you only want to see what you curate, it's like, okay, yeah, we want $1.99 a month for that, because we make less money when you view what you want to view as compared to you viewing what we want you to view.
Mhm.
So
And that's insane to me.
And I don't
Just
understand.
Yeah.
And then that's a good point. Politicians should, if you're gonna, if you, I'm already answering my question, because I know that the tech lobbyists are doing a damn good job of suggesting how these politicians should sign and what they should bring in and take out. But if politicians really want to be like, all right, we want to not make both sides happy, but we do want to limit what kids are doing or people in general are doing on social media, but at the same time not cutting everything off, they should put it in the bill. It's like, all right, we're going to force tech companies to make people choose how they want their experience. Tech companies, social media platforms will be upset, but they will still get their choice of promoting the algorithm. But give people a choice, man. And then that way politicians can say they done something to make people happy. And then at the same time, tech companies would be like, all right, that sucks. But at the same time, we're going to promote this algorithm. And most people are going to do that anyway.
anyway, yeah.
Mhm.
But then how are you going to charge people when you're still getting my data for free? Like
What's that got to do with anything?
that's that's nuts.
You've been living in America a long time. That's how companies roll.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know that any of this is going to um put a dent in what is happening with young people in social media.
We are
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I've been saying it for a long time. I hate to be, so fatalist and pessimistic about it, but that genie is way out of that
Yeah.
bottle, and it's really going to take. And I think we were talking about this last week. I don't remember, but a collective action from parents.
Mhm.
I'm actually reading. Hold on. I'm reading this book, The Anxious Generation, which got a ton of, New York Times bestseller, yada, yada, yada. But this guy, Jonathan Haidt, is making the case for, why kids are the way they are and how, social media has basically rewired their brains, but also the idea that it is going to take a huge collective effort from
Mhm.
parents
Mhm.
Mhm.
to go back to the way it was. Like, make your kids go outside and play.
Right.
Take these phones, make them interact with each other.
Mhm.
Put them on a sports team. Like, send them
Yeah.
to a club. Like, you don't let them take the phones to school. Like, like, and get over that, because he talks about two things that sort of dovetailed, which was parental over protection, and then I forget how you put it, but the fact that there's no protection online. So the parents are hovering, and they want they want to be connected to their kids all the time, 24/7. So my kid needs their phone. What if I need to call them?
Yeah.
You don't need to call your kid every 5 minutes of every day. You know what I mean? But then you give them these devices that give them access to this space that is completely unguarded and unprotected, a whole internet, and you can't have both. Like, you can't have both.
When around the time of that last school shooting, not the last, because there's probably school shootings darn near daily in America, but the last one that made the news, the one that was in Atlanta, in the suburb outside of Atlanta.
It's way outside of Atlanta too. Don't let them fool you. It's in the sticks.
Okay.
But it is in it's a big big high school in Georgia.
Right. One of the things that a lot of parents are saying, so this is why I need to have my baby with a phone, because if something's going down, I need to be able to get a hold of them. But then some experts came out and were saying, if your child has a phone and you're trying to call them and this and that and the other, when this is going on, you're actually making them less safe, because now they're paying attention to you and not paying attention to their teachers and everybody else who's trying to keep them from getting shot. And it's like one of the examples was given, your child is hiding in a room and their phone rings, that can be heard. Right. Do you think now that the gunman now knows where there's someone at? They that's where they're going to try to get, and it makes sense. But there are study after study after study that just shows that phones in school are not a good thing, and you're starting to see like charter schools and private schools where they don't have to deal with the public in the same way. It's like, hey, if you want to go to school here, you're going to pay us, and your children will not have phones. That's just how it's going to be.
And a lot of public schools are doing it as well. A lot of school districts around. I mean, I know Philadelphia is like looking at it, and I think some New York school districts have done it. Like LA Unified School District is thinking about it. So, I mean, it's going to take collective parental action.
Yeah, and just to go back to the bill in California. That to me is what this is trying to do. The bill is trying to do some things that parents should be doing.
Exactly.
We know that your child spending enormous amounts of time on social media is not good for their mental health. So we're going to limit it. Not because you're not doing it.
Because
that's part of the problem that we've heard you preach about for the last 3+ years on this show.
That's crazy. Yeah. COPA and COSA are doing too much, LA
parents ain't doing enough.
Parents ain't doing enough. Yeah, it's just it's crazy. So they have all of this to say, parents.
But to real quick though,
parents.
I think this is just, unfortunately, but fortunately, this is just evolution. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to be one of those parents. It's like, oh, things need to go back to the way they were, right? Because when I was a kid, my parents said the same thing. Oh, we need to go back to the way things were. And then their parents said the same thing. I think this is just the sign of the times, and it's going to be messy, and it's going to be confusing, and there is going to be some collateral damage. But I think eventually we will adapt to this whole the world in the palm of your hands thing. I think we will. This is just the beginning of like even though we've been in it for like at least 20 years since the creation of the cell phone or the smartphone. But I think this is just that time to where everybody's trying to figure it out.
Growing pains.
Right.
But that's sad, because on the other side of that is like a new society where people don't interact with each other at all. Like that's what we're going to see. Like everybody will be interacting with AI. Their avatars will be interacting and not them in real life. Like you see that now with a bunch of kids sitting at a table together, but all on their phones. And it's just like, I don't want to sound like the old person screaming, "Get off my lawn," but that's not how humans were designed to exist.
But just when I was at the top, I was talking about college, right? We went to one of the more populated colleges in the state, and it's like smack dab in the city. So it's real urban, right? It's not necessarily your traditional campus where they've got the quad and it's all green space and it's blocked off. There's a complete walking campus. This is like in the heart of downtown Atlanta, right? And I mean, it was hustle and bustle. So we're walking up the street, kids walking back and forth. And one of the things that I noticed, and I was like, we got to give the kids a little bit credit. After the tour, we were in they gave us free lunch tickets for coming to the tour. So we got to eat in the campus dorm. Then at the bottom of the dorm, they had like one of the campus dining areas, right? And we went in there, just sitting there with me and my wife, and then my daughter. She had some friends that went to the college, so they came down to meet her. They're interacting back and forth. And I actually looked around, and it's not that bad. The kids are laughing and talking. They're having a good time. Yeah, some of them are taking pictures. Some of them are on their phones. But for what it's worth, kids are still interacting. They are still talking. I was asking my daughter's friend, was like, hey, how things going in college? Because she's been there for a couple weeks or a couple months or something like that. She's like, oh yeah, everything's going good. I'm like, oh, are you making friends? She's like, oh yeah, I made 2 new friends. And, because of the club I'm in, we've got these people in the pre-collegiate program that I came to. I had a bunch of friends, and then we went to another college. We went to a HBCU like two hours later. And then my daughter has another friend in that college. So she came down to me and the same thing. Yeah, I met this friend, I came to this club and I came to this, my roommates. So all that to say, all the way around the world to say, there is some hope because there are kids out there that are intermingling. They have their social circles, and it ain't all surrounding what's going on the internet. So a little sliver of hope.
Listen, man is a gregarious animal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We were meant to congregate in
Mhm.
community, and I don't know.
It's such a different time. I remember being, when I first went off to college, and there was no such thing. Well, cell phones existed, but they were like the Zach Morris phones or the phones you would have in a bag. And nobody that I knew had one. I definitely didn't have one. So you had to make those calls that were collect from Love You My Bye. I don't know if I'm the only one that did that, but that was something I was doing. That's how I let my mama know that I was doing all right, and she ain't need to drive 400 500 miles to come see and check on her baby. But anyway, one of the things, Steph, that you stuck in our rundown that is not really a new law, is just the way that judges might be looking at a loophole that they put into the law, Section 230, and it looks like they're saying that, when you start recommending stuff to people algorithmically and it causes harm, we're not gonna let you slide on that. So tell us what's going on with Section 230, like the loophole.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is all born out of a tragedy. A 10-year-old girl died when she tried the
Blackout
the
challenge.
blackout challenge. Yeah, because it got recommended to her in her TikTok feed, and her mother sued because, like, why are you pushing this out? This wasn't from someone she followed. To your point, Terrance, you seeing all this other stuff, from people you're not following, and she saw it and she tried it, and unfortunately, she passed away. And so, what the third U.S. Court of Appeals, let me
Third Circuit
Third
Court of
Circuit
Third
Court.
Circuit Court.
Yeah. What they ended up saying is basically there's a distinction between being a publisher and being a distributor of content. So while the platforms are just amassing content from different users and letting it live on their platforms, they're publishers. But once you start using algorithmic methods to propagate that information to people who haven't necessarily requested it, you become a distributor at that point. And as such, you are now subject to whatever that's content is that you're distributing. You are now responsible for that content and who it gets propagated to. So it's an interesting thing. We'll see, what happened. It's very interesting that they picked TikTok is specifically to test this on. Well, I guess because TikTok was in the lawsuit, but I feel like this might have a little something to also do with the fact that the United States is trying to ban TikTok as well, because this case could be made for any of the platforms, really. So it'll be interesting to see, what this means, because as much as we sit here and fuss about it, like, what does a social media platform without an algorithm look like? And would people actually spend any time on a platform like that? So yeah, a lot of questions.
So Steph, before we move on, can you explain to folks who may not know what Section 230 is and what it allows social media companies to potentially do?
Sure. So Section 230 is a part of the Communications Decency Act. the Federal Communications Decency Act, which stated that basically social media platforms can't be held responsible or liable for the content that is posted on their platforms because it's user generated content. They don't want to suppress free speech. So, you're not necessarily liable for what someone else posts on your platform, which makes sense. In an effort to protect free speech, you're not responsible for that. You're still allowed to moderate it how you see fit. The platform can still moderate that content any way they see fit, but they're not necessarily responsible and can't be held liable for that content. But now, what this new judgment is saying is that okay, you aren't responsible for folks posting whatever they want to post, but if you now let your technology start going in, making predictions on what you think people want to see and pushing that stuff out to people unsolicited, now you've become a distributor of content. And that's a little bit different than just being a publisher. So you could be held liable for that.
No, I actually like it
Yeah, me
simply
too.
because it's like that specific, and it speaks to, again, like I was talking about, to where I just want to see what I signed up to see,
Right.
not necessarily what
Mhm.
you think I should see based on whatever I'm clicking around, commenting, whatever the case may be. Just because I liked this doesn't necessarily mean you should adjust my whole algorithm
To show
to
me a
show me
thousand
this.
more of those videos. Yeah.
Right, and stuff related to it. Like, I didn't go in and specifically in this specific case, the point is the girl didn't necessarily type in the search,
Right.
blackout challenge.
Right.
That would be different, if she actually looked in and did that search or whatever, and was looking for that, according to the story, that was something that was fed to her. And as a
Mhm.
result, X, Y, and Z happened. So I think that is, as far as semantics is concerned, that
Right.
is a good way
It's
to
it,
put these companies on the hook, because that's exactly what they're doing.
that's
They are
right.
they are feeding us information or feeding us content that they think, or they are able to deduce, that we want to see based off of what we're doing, versus letting me have that choice.
And it might not even necessarily be correct. I could have just accidentally tapped on
Mhm,
somebody's tag in
mhm,
the video that took me to another video that whatever, or I could have just, like, I maybe wanted to research something real quick, but I
mhm.
don't want this content all in my feed for the forever, amen.
Mhm.
So it's just like you don't get to dictate basically
And then wash your hands
what
on the whole
people,
thing.
and then say, well, it was the algorithm. That's what you know what I mean? Yeah, you don't get to throw a rock and hide your hand, basically.
Mhm,
Yeah, so I'm with Terrence. I'm for this one because this is what will make it change. Money,
Hmm.
money.
Hmm.
Because if they end up losing this, now they're going to. They're going to. I'm certain that this will be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yes, it is. It's on its
And
way as we
it's on.
speak.
It's going to go all the way there. But if they end up losing this, that's going to cost them a lot of money, and that ultimately, and it's sad that this is how it has to be, but that
It
is what's
is.
going to that's what's going to faucet change. If things change, it's going to be because so we can get sued for showing this. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be showing that. That's really what it comes down to. It's sad that it has to be that way, but I am encouraged by this because you should not be promoting that kind of content to a 10-year-old. You shouldn't be
No,
promoting that kind of content to anybody,
to
to
anybody. Yeah.
anybody. But little a 10-year-old. So we will see how
Yeah.
this goes.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not over yet. This is going to have to go through multiple appeals and eventually get to the Supreme Court. And sadly, who knows what what they will do. I don't think that you look at this as a liberal versus conservative thing. This is somebody's baby
Hopefully
killed.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll look
Hopefully
at it
this
from
doesn't
that.
end up being some partisan
I
nonsense.
hope not.
Yeah.
we know it is.
I'm
We
trying.
know it is.
I'm trying to be.
Listen,
I'm
we're
trying to
gonna
be
keep hope
optimistic.
alive, right?
I'm
We're
trying to
gonna
be
keep hope
optimistic.
alive. Come on, man. Come on. Do the right thing, Supreme Court.
So y'all, we're gonna wrap up the conversation today. I put this in our group chat earlier. Are y'all using any digital note taking apps at all? Like
And when you
I
say
am a
digital,
huge Evernote fan.
okay, yeah. No, I use the Apple Notes app pretty religiously.
And I do use notes occasionally, but most of the time I'm Writing it
Yeah.
out by hand,
So
baby.
here's why I brought this up. When I was in college and even early into my career, until I discovered, I think OneNote was probably the first online note taking app that I really was enamored with. I couldn't do those moleskins. They were kind of expensive. So I would do like where you could get like the 10 pack of the research journal type stuff, where you get a 10 pack for like $4. And I would just put all my notes in them. I liked them because I got the grid style ones and I could make my little drawings and all that kind of stuff. And I would put everything in there. And I just happened to go home this weekend. My nephews were playing football. They're in their senior year. So I want to go check as many of their games as I can, because it's the last time I want to probably get to see them play until they go off to college. And my mom was saying, it's like, hey, I was doing some stuff in the basement, and it's like found an old Foot Locker of mine where I had just like dozens upon dozens of these journals that I had taken notes all the way going back to high school, but even like some of my first jobs where I just wrote everything down in one of these books. And she's like, do you still do that? I was like, no, I put everything in my phone at this point. And she's like, but you put all that in your phone? And it's just like, having a conversation. It's like, and even now, if I do write something down, personally, I will take a picture of it just so this in my phone digitally, because I will always have my phone. Those journals were in a Foot Locker in my mom's house, and they've probably been there for the last 20 years. So it just kind of made me wonder, what are you guys doing as far as note taking? Because I think it can make you
get a little. Yeah, no, I know I need to get a little bit better. I'm a sucker for stationery. That's my first problem. I love notebooks and just good pens, and the pens that write really nice, and good stationery. A notebook with. Let me see. I'm gonna pull out just on this back thing. Just off of one shelf.
Yeah.
They're all different. See, this one had a little black girl on there. This one had a little pineapple.
See,
like
I
I'm
used
a
to be the same
sucker
way.
for stationery.
And what about you, Terrance? Do you as part of just like a daily practice take notes in something?
Like writing stuff down?
No, just like whether it be
Oh.
digital notes, writing it down. Is this something that you do?
I don't write nothing down, Jack. Nothing. Everything is going, because similar to what Robb is. I know my electronics, whether they be a physical device, computer, laptop, iPad, phone, or the digital content that I store, will be on me, or I know how to get access to it regardless of where I'm at or what I'm doing. So I have purposely evolved or adapted or changed into putting most of that stuff in one place. And I use the Apple Notes app because one of the benefits that I hope is going to happen is when Apple finally does release the full blown Apple Intelligence, that intelligence will then search through those notes and use that as the information that it builds to, quote unquote, to learn me. So when I go to then ask Siri something like that lady in the commercial, it'll be able to use that information and pull up, oh, he did have something in his notes that he saved to look up that website later. Let me reveal that, so that's the plan, is to pull all of that stuff, convert all that stuff electronically. So one, have quick access to it, and then be able to integrate it into the technology that I use. So that's the plan. But also it's like, I'm lazy, and I'd rather just pull up a quick note and then, clickety clack on my computer, because I did take, we're probably the last generation actually took typing classes in high school, so I'm so used to whipping up a keyboard real quick to just type stuff out that's just how I do things nowadays.
Yeah, I am 100% digital at this point. Now, on my phone, I do have a stylus. On my tablet, I do have a stylus. So there may be times when I actually will take a handwritten note just because it's convenient to do it. I don't have to look at a screen. I can just type or write as I am listening to someone say something, but 100% digital. And one of the things that I like about digital is I can literally put everything in one place. So I have one place to search for everything. So I put receipts in my notes. I put sticky notes. I'll take a picture of the sticky note. If there's a sign that I like, I'll take a picture of the sign. All that stuff goes in my notes. And I am using Evernote right now. And Evernote does have an AI search capability. But where it is starting to fall down and what it has me looking at other things is that I'm looking at how other platforms where you've taken your content and you can then not just search the content and find out, but you can actually have it give you insights. And we talked in the after party last week about Google's Notebook LM, about how you can literally take your notes and turn it into a podcast episode. And I'm now hearing, since that has come out, because it just came out last week, I'm now hearing students in college that are taking their notes and then using Notebook LM to take their notes, turn it into a podcast so they can listen to it when they're in the car, listen to it while they're on the treadmill at the gym or whatever.
That's a dope idea.
And I'm like, that is a game changer right there. So, so anybody who's interested, go take a look at Google's Notebook LM. Personally, I like it more than Gemini because I think Gemini right now definitely takes a back seat to what you get in Copilot or what you get in ChatGPT. But Notebook LM is different because you literally could take your notes and then have it go back and read it to you, or not read it to you, but actually talk to you as though you were listening to a podcast episode. So as I said, I went and I looked at some of my composition books that I had in my storage locker at my mama's house. I actually scanned them, put those in the Notebook LM. And that joker made a podcast out of notes I wrote on paper 20 years ago. And I'm like, crazy. That's different. That's different. So I just want to have that quick little conversation about it.
I do have a Rocket book. I don't know if you are familiar with that.
Is that like a Remarkable where you can actually,
yes, it's do I have Remarkable? I feel like it's called Rocket Book though. But it is. It is just like that, where you write and it just automatically digitizes and transcribes. I may pull that back out because I'm still, for my brain, I need the process of writing. Like,
so why don't you do both? Why don't you write down at the time of that thing that spark that memory or spark that creativity? Then once you're done, like catalog it and then digitize it after the fact, so you can actually recall that stuff. Because do you ever go back into those notes and like flip through
them? The ones that I'm currently using,
but after the fact, like
once the notebook's full and like my journals, I go back in my journals and just read stuff. But like this is my Tech Jawn notebook. Like literally all of my notes for this show since we started is in this book. Once it's done, why would I need to go back into the notebook? I mean, like if the show is over, like once the notebook's full, like I don't know that I would, but I could see a use case for needing to go back and remember episode blah 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 when we talked about yada yada yada. Like I could definitely see needing to flip back through these pages. And some of my other notebooks, I definitely see the usefulness of like, man, where's that when I wrote down that thing that I know. Listen, I know. I was just looking at as your friendly neighborhood tech expert.
Well, just looking at best of both worlds, right?
Like I'm aware that I need to do better.
Because I'm in the phase of throwing junk out. I like to think I'm not nostalgic, but at the same time, I know there's some things that I want to keep. And it's just like right now I'm in a phase to where it's like, all right, if this don't bring me joy, right?
You Marie
get it out of here.
Your whole life.
Right. And because I'm starting like, it's like, there's stuff that it's like, I feel like I need to keep, but at the same time, it's like, I know that if I get rid of it, I'm gonna need it at that one time, but me waiting for that one time is just like got my, storage area filled up with junk. So it's like, all right, digitizing notes is almost like, all right, let me store it somewhere that's not physically taking up space. But I know that at a drop of a hat, it'll take me maybe a minute to find it without having to physically have to espouse time,
Mhm.
trying to, recall it,
Listen, you ain't got
Yeah,
to convince me.
that is the benefit.
I'm aware.
That,
I'm aware. I am aware.
that is the benefit.
Maybe I'll have to when we get off here start taking some pictures in my notebooks
I think I
and
told
getting
you
it
about this
together.
before. I know I've mentioned it on the show, but there's a really good book by Tiago Forte. It's called Building a Second Brain. Steph,
Mhm.
you would like that because it's about how you can use digital note taking to literally build as the title says, a second brain, and that's what I've done. Now, I'm not a hardcore second brainer, but I do use a lot of the concepts, and really one of the things that I like about this, and I think Terrance, you're probably saying the same thing, is that if you put all your notes digitally in the same place, you only have one place to go search for anything. And where AI is coming, I can literally say things like, for example, if we were taking your notes and putting them in, what show were we talking about XYZ in? The AI is good enough to figure that out to where it just could you do it manually? Yeah, but it might take you 5 or 6 minutes. It takes the AI 5 or 6 seconds, and you have your answer. And it's pretty cool. So I just will, I'll wrap up with this. If you're not using if you're on an iPhone, if you're not using Apple Notes, if you're on a Samsung device, if you're not using Samsung Notes, if you're just on an Android device, you're not using Google Keep or something like that, or one of these third-party app programs, you're doing yourself a disservice. You might want to just go check them out because they give you the ability to remember everything without having to remember anything. You just take a picture of it. It is there. You just type it in. It is there. You never have to remember it. And you can kind of go and just once or twice a week, go look at your notes, put that in the archive, delete that, put that in the archive, put this in a resource. You just put things in different places, only a few of them, 3, 4, 5 different places. And you just have that stuff forever. So I literally have stuff that goes back 13, 14 years in Evernote that I could recall in a moment's notice just because it's all in Evernote. And that's the only place I've ever kept notes.
I feel attacked.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We could go ahead and wrap it up. We didn't have any new patrons this week, but if you would like to support the Tech Jawn, one of the places you can do that is, or one of the ways I should say that you can do that is by becoming a patron. Head over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. And we've got multiple tiers over there, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and our after party, which we're about to go into right now. So once again, if you would like to support the show, head over to thetechjawn.com. That's thetechjawn.com/Patreon. With that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph or check out stephaniehumphrey.com. If anybody is up tomorrow, I will be on Merritt Street Media, morning on Merritt Street at 9:40 a.m. Oh, I guess you're listening to this on a Tuesday. So never mind. Scratch that.
Well, folks, it's
Anybody
live.
in the,
Folks, well, we got people listening live. The
that's
folks are
right.
listening live right now.
Folks that are live. That's right.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech Jawn, the Tech JAWN on all the things. So come holler at us, have you holler. Until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.
Peace.